Hi guys, it's Ryan Fowler here with Teresa Kuhn, Inner Masculine Live with Inner Feminine today, every Friday. And I have been out of the loop for the last 3 days, but there's a very good reason for that. As you saw on my broadcast 2 days ago, wrote the ebook. It's been released. It went out to everyone on the email list. And so for you guys that signed up on the waiting list for the ebook, if you didn't get it, check your junk folder. But here with Teresa, we're going to talk a little bit about the ebook real quick, and then we're going to go into how to become your own source of power, your own source of success, your own source of abundance. What is the fuel or the engine, I guess the fuel for the engine that is going to power you to success and abundance? Now, the thing about me and Teresa is I'm like top 5% on a really good year, top 2 or 3% income earner. Teresa is, I won't say, but she's does extremely well. She does better than me. We'll say that. But first, so we kind of know what we're talking about.
We're not competing, Ryan, right?
We're not competing. I know. And,
it's not competition.
It's all good. But not a competition. But Teresa knows what's up. She knows what's up. She has this source of power that has driven her to success and abundance. And I have been harnessing it too. And we're living the lives we want. Teresa, I just know, is a happy person. And it doesn't mean that, our lives are like butterflies and I don't know what Disneyland and butterflies. That can be a copyright strike. I don't know. We have ups and downs, but honestly, man, it's a pretty good life all in all. So doesn't mean there's not challenges, but there is something that you can use as a massive fuel source to drive you to abundance and success. So we're going to talk about what that is today. I wonder if anyone in the chat right now, I see Jay Lee, maybe put your guess in the chat as to what can you use as your own source of abundance, success, power to get what you want. While we're waiting for that, if anyone does put it in the chat, I think there's 2 people watching. That's okay. It's like starts out with 2 and it goes up to anywhere from 6 to 20. Totally cool. So thanks for those who jumped on. Before we do that, we're going to look over the ebook that just got released. It ended up being 30 pages, and I'm kind of, I missed my show 3 days, but I'm kind of proud because this is 1/8 of a book that I wrote in 1 week. It is like, with 3 drafts, it was a major undertaking. Pretty proud of it though. So all you need to do, you see it in the bottom of my screen, innermasculine.com/free-ebook, is going to show you what is going on with your subconscious mind. And we have a quote by a biologist, PhD biology professor as well, turned subconscious mind guru that we're going to show after this. Your subconscious mind is extremely important. 95% of your behavior is dictated by your subconscious. That is not conjecture. That is neuroscience. It's an established fact. It's mainstream, known for a while, but no one knows what our subconscious is. They say, oh, subconscious is subconscious. Okay. How does their subconscious work? How does it influence us? How is it directing 95% of our behavior? Guess what? The ebook's going to tell you. You are going to be able to read this and then apply it in your life. We start out, what is a subconscious program? If you don't know, you should go to innermasculine.com free-ebook, put in your email. You'll get it right away or within a day. How does our subconscious mind develop? How does it affect behavior? How does it affect behavior versus how our conscious mind affects our behavior? You can see it all here. What motivates us towards something? What motivates us away from something? What keeps us stuck? We go over procrastination, self-sabotage. Perfectionism is covered in the procrastination section. It's all there. We talk about addiction, what's going on with that in your subconscious. So, innermasculine.com/free-ebook. And Teresa, anything you'd like to add here before we move on?
So something that you mentioned about us being happy, that struck me because I can't say that I'm happy all the time. What's elevated in my life more than anything else is that I have expanded my range of emotions.
Mhm.
And so I live a much more healthier emotional life. And from all of the subconscious programming that I've done over the years, and I'm talking decades, right? Because when I started with the subconscious programming, we didn't have the technology and the knowledge that we do today, right? I'm
Yeah.
going back, literally decades, 3 decades. And
Yeah.
so there's an awareness that I have, besides having the expanded range of emotion, which is very healthy. Every emotion has its positives and its negatives, right?
Can you give us examples of why it's healthy?
Well, we have those emotions for a reason, right? There is an appropriate place
There's an
for rage.
evolutionary survival-based reason for emotions. Doesn't mean our emotions are helping or hurting us, because if you have bad subconscious programs, they very well may be hurting you, but there's a reason for them for sure. Survival-based.
Right.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So rage is considered a very negative emotion. Anger is considered a negative emotion. Depression, sadness, grief.
There's actually a purpose to all of them.
There's a purpose to all of them. And what isn't positive about those emotions is when those emotions don't serve us, or they get stuck in our bodies and run the programming versus what you want to accomplish in your life, and your objective runs you, and your outside world is a direct reflection of your inner world. It just is. So I wanted to mention that with regards to you saying, we're pretty happy.
Doesn't mean we're happy 24/7. I'm not saying that.
No, but I certainly feel like the locus of control of my life is inside me. I do have my spiritual relationship, and instead of being paranoid about my life and in fear of my life and the direction that my life is going in, I believe in pronoia, which is the opposite of paranoia. Pronoia means that the universe is conspiring to serve me at my highest level, that God is there to support me, as opposed to what can possibly go wrong, which I used to wake up a long time ago thinking, what could go wrong? I get in my car, what could happen? What bad could happen? And it was a very fear-based way of living.
Is it all bad though? We learn stuff from what goes wrong, right?
Oh, absolutely. The journey has been priceless. If for no other reason, I get to talk to, work with, coach, relate to humanity. Right?
Yeah.
If I didn't have those experiences and my life was just, jelly beans, I wouldn't be able to relate to humanity at all.
And I know from experience, you've done some coaching for others and made massive differences in their life very quickly.
Yeah.
Like I referred that one client to you, I won't say who, and I followed up with the client, and this client was like, oh my goodness. I'm like, you had a massive effect on this client, one session.
And as have you, right?
Oh yeah, I've done it for hundreds of people. Like I've had so many people who absolutely tell you I changed their life. I have 18 video testimonial interviews on my channel now, and I have a guy who's compiling them into shorter clips, and then he's going to put all the short clips into one big long video. I have another guy I'm ready to interview whose life I totally changed this guy's life. We're going to interview him. I do it all the freaking time. And these are just video interviews for people who say, hey, you helped me with some really personal stuff that should probably stay private, but this helped me so much. I'm going to help you get the message out, Ryan. I'm going to talk to you and let it go to the world, my personal stuff. That's these people, these 18 interviews. I mean, most people are like, no, man, I don't want to lose my job because the personal stuff we went through, But real quick, Jay Lee, I asked you guys, what is the source of power how we can become our own source of power that will drive us to abundant success, the fuel that gets us there. Happiness as well, although happiness is, there's good times, bad times, but I have way more good times than I did 10 12 years ago. Jay Lee, you said gratitude. Very good guess. I think gratitude is a subset of what the fuel we're talking about is, but it's not exactly, although an important component. Thanks for your inner child. You work on the inner child. Actually, the answer is contained in here. Would you agree? When you work on your inner child, you're generating some of this fuel. Would you agree?
Oh, completely and totally. And the work probably begins with the inner child work, right? Even though for some people it doesn't begin there. But if you can begin to relate to your inner child, and because so much, and the quote that you're going to
I'm about to show the
later
Bruce
on,
Lipton quote. Yeah, after you're
right?
done.
That our programming began when we were born till a certain age, which when our brain waves were in a certain state that just accepted everything as truth. That's when we were programmed, when we were little girls and boys. And I see people walking around today, and this is where the experience, the pain that Ryan, you and I basically lived with for a long time, we can relate to humanity. Because today I walk around and see people's little kids, right? Their little boy that's hurt, their little girl that's hurt. When someone shows up in a way that frankly is probably inappropriate, or they're mad, or they're angry, or they're sad, or they're lashing out, it's their little child that has not been healed.
And that can ripple through the rest of that child's life if that child doesn't know how to heal it.
Absolutely.
Which is what we do.
Our parents, our grandparents, when they throw tantrums, when they're not getting their way, it's just their little child, right? And we've got children raising children who have not healed. And so this work is so important to stop that cycle of hurt people hurting people.
Yeah. And something that is truly noble is you have someone, and I probably need to have kids because it's such a waste for me to like clean up my inner world, not pass it on. But there's true nobility in coming from like this abusive, toxic family where if you really could look back, it would go back for generations and generations and generations of addiction, abuse, just being passed on because hurt people hurt people. People hurting inside will be very critical of others. They'll lash out at others. If you're an addict, an alcoholic, you're going to pass that trauma on to your kids, et cetera, et cetera. If you're codependent, you're going to mess up your kids, straight up facts. So to some extent. And so if you clean out your inner world, and assuming you do have kids, the bloodline is going to be cleansed from your point on. I mean, super, super noble. And then if you teach these good things to your kids, how many generations of like emotionally healthy people, could be thousands of people that come after you, could have been super tortured and messed up, but now because of you clean out your internal world and then passing on your genes, that bloodline's clean, and just generations of enlightened, overall happy and emotionally healthy people. So
and may I
now
one other level real quick?
Sure.
It's this level is based on quantum entanglement, right? And basically that
be sure to explain that to our audience, but keep going.
The concept of quantum entanglement, and I'm not the technical person here, you are, but from a conceptual level, it says that from a DNA perspective, we are connected. And so they've done experiments taking a person's DNA. Let's say they take your DNA today, right now, and they ship it to Russia. And Ryan, you're exposed to some very traumatic images that impact you emotionally.
I know where you're going. Yeah.
They have shown that DNA in Russia gets impacted because
isn't that crazy?
It's crazy. And
what about the DNA in your kids that came from you?
That's just it. When you do this work, I believe with every cell of my being that as I was doing this work, it impacted not only my kids, my son, my family, my ex-husband, my parents who are living, my siblings, right? It's absolutely going to impact future generations. I believe it's impacted my ancestors as well, right? From a quantum entanglement perspective, DNA, as well as the people that I relate to. If you don't have kids, but you've healed, how is that healing going to impact the people you work with, the people you do life with? Of course, it's going to impact them. If by no other way, by being the example of someone who has been on the healing journey, you become an inspiration for what's possible.
And all my friends are up leveling, and that just inspires me to up level. We're like, you're on this path and you up level, and you know that if your friends don't up level, they go by the wayside. I mean, I don't mean to be mean, but that's kind of how it is. If they're at this, because at the end of the day, they do have the choice. But if they stay down here and you're going up here, sooner or later, you're going to let them go, or they're going to come up with you. But it's surprising how many come up with you. And, Melanie Tonia Evans, whose program I first discovered, got me on this path 10.5 years ago. She talked about how she was afraid she was going to lose her son. I don't know whether he was suicidal or drugs, or I don't know what it was, but she said she was afraid she's going to lose him, like physically, and also her relationship with him, but also physically lose him. And what she did is she went in, she found unhealed trauma in herself that she believed was connected to his trauma. She healed that, and 3 weeks later, he healed. And it's like, isn't that interesting?
I believe it. I believe it with every fiber of my being. From a biblical perspective, the Bible talks about the sins of the father going back 7 generations, right? Impacting. That's a DNA inheritance perspective. And if you are entangled, if you are connected from a DNA perspective, I think if time, right? What was it that Einstein said? That we really have no limitations in terms of time and space.
Yeah.
We can do healing forwards and backwards and in present time. If you can't be inspired to do the healing for yourself, be inspired to do the healing for your family or for others.
100%. And this sounds woo as hell. I'm aware of that. But if you study physics, they are actually talking about the same concepts in physics now. Quantum entanglement is a observable phenomenon in physics. They have 2 particles that are entangled. They separate them, and when characteristics of one particle change, the other particle, however far away, instantly changes as well to match the change in the first particle. So the particles are influencing each other, even though they're separated by great distance. Doesn't matter. And they've done these experiments. They've also found out, they've done experiments, and man, I got to dig up the experiments, probably do a show on this, where they've shown that the past influences the future and the future influences the past. And they've shown this from a scientific standpoint. So
it's crazy.
The interesting thing about our universe is there is more depth to it and more interconnectedness than we realize. And science is actually finding this out. And it's like, whoa, the double slit experiment in quantum mechanics, just real quick, I'll try and keep it as simple as I can, is, 100 years ago, they did this experiment where they had some photosensitive paper in the background, and then they had a wall with 2 slits in it. And then they fired a stream of photons one at a time, I believe randomly through one of the 2 slits. It would go, it would go back, it would go to one or the other. And what they noticed is when no one was observing the experiment as it was conducted, there was a wave interference pattern on this photosensitive paper that would react to the light, the photons being shot at it. So when no one was observing the experiment, light behaved like a wave. But when someone was watching the experiment, and they reproduced this hundreds of thousands of times, when someone was observing the photons going through the slits, it would then be 2 discrete slits on the photo, because light, if it was observed, now behaved as a particle. And that's quantum mechanics. The inception of quantum mechanics was like, by observing the experiment, the outcome of the experiment changes. What the hell? And that's where, and they're like, we don't know if it's just measuring it or if it's consciousness or not, but there's some experiments showing that it probably is consciousness, and there's debate against it, but there's all sorts of crazy stuff going on in the world of science. that actually carries out to consciousness in our world now. Now, let's show the Bruce Lipton quote. Bruce Lipton wrote the book Biology of Belief. He's a biology professor, but he also became a subconscious mind guru because he was suffering. His life was miserable and sucked until he figured out how to fix his subconscious. And now he's like living the best life he's ever lived, ever. So he became quite the authority on sub, but he also applied it to how our cells behave and how consciousness affects our DNA. He's done some really interesting stuff on that, you know, a PhD hardcore scientist. So let me show you this about subconscious mind. And this will tie into inner child work, which ties into the core thing we're talking about today. Our thoughts are mainly controlled by our subconscious, which is largely formed before the age of 6. I would say age of 8, but whatever. You cannot change the subconscious mind by just thinking about it. That's why the power of positive thinking will not work for most people. Positive thinking is good, but it is wholly inadequate by itself. The subconscious mind is like a tape player. Until you change the tape, it will not play. And what we notice over and over again, Teresa, is people have bad subconscious programs, and you see these themes play out in their life over and over and over again. Every time there's risk of failure, they feel anxiety, they pull back. That's it. They get in bad relationship after bad relationship after bad relationship. Why? Subconscious mind. It's that tape playing, and it's going to take you where it feels you should be, whether you like it or not, until you actually go in and change it. That's why I wrote this book. How does your subconscious mind work? How to change it. And this is why I get huge results. I get huge freaking results. I get amazing results very rapidly. I'm not saying I cure everyone and everyone's psyche in one session, but I'm saying one session, big results happens all the time. Big permanent results. People take 3-4 sessions and dude, it's just like, they just freaking take off, and then do self-hypnosis, all that. It's amazing. So any
and we know you don't
that?
cure anyone at all, right? There's no cure here.
I'm not curing. I'm just
facilitating.
I'm getting bad core beliefs out, good core beliefs in, and then, you know, that's what I do. Yeah, I'm not a medical professional, guys, just so you know. So go ahead. What's your, I can put this quote back up. What's your take on this quote, Teresa?
It was the foundation of the work that I've done and been doing for the last, you know, let me think how old I am since my.
I messed up. I closed the tab. So
that's okay. I remember the quote. I know the quote. Bruce Lipton. The Biology of Belief. Highly recommend that book. The science and the research is probably dated because it's at least 15 years old.
Yeah, he basically shows how consciousness unlocks your DNA, and it's consciousness that activates certain parts of your DNA. That's kind of. Would you agree? That's more or less the thesis.
Yes, and epigenetics. I think he discusses epigenetics, the concept of epigenetics, which you know, science at the time believed that if you were born with, you know, the genetics predisposed to, you know, a certain disease, that you didn't have any control over it. And basically, he's saying, "Oh no, absolutely not. The expression of that gene can be turned off, on or off." A lot of great things in that book, and
it's your belief that turns certain genes on or off. There's genes tied to cancer, and there's good genes too. They're turned on and off by your belief system. I think that's kind of what he says. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, it's your consciousness that will activate certain bad genes, and this is why, you know, there was a show we did on subconscious trauma. And people who have heavy subconscious trauma, they've observed these people, and their life expectancy is almost 20 years shorter than people who don't have very severe subconscious trauma. So it literally it'll activate these negative genes, and then you get cancer and you die 20 years younger. It's verified. It's science.
So let me ask you a question on that. I did not know that. That is.
I did a show on trauma, and it's the guy where there's this old scientist speaking on this lady who was molested as a child, and she was 408 pounds, and they got her to 132 pounds in a year. And then someone at her work sexually propositioned her, and within a year she was above 400 pounds again.
She was
because
triggered
of her
back.
trauma. She got triggered.
Yeah, she got triggered back. You know, that's PTSD. There's post-traumatic stress disorder. There's chronic
Yeah, I had
post-traumatic stress disorder.
CPTSD complex.
The complex, right?
I had CPTSD, yeah.
And so is this study based on one event, or is it based on the chronic, like growing up in an environment, childhood, where there's chronic?
They studied 17,000 people over decades.
You know, I went to a really interesting event, seminar not too long ago. It was actually a live recording of Timothy Leary's son with a representative of, I think it was a sergeant or lieutenant in the city of Massachusetts, in Massachusetts police department. And they were talking about first responders and how they are exposed in the typical or average first responders career. They are exposed to over 200 post-traumatic stress disorder incidents that would trigger post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yeah, events, yeah.
Over 200 events in the average first responder's career. That's insane.
Yeah. That's going to cause issues. Okay, so anyone else who wants to guess, we gave a couple hints today. Jay Lee, what you talked about is a subset of the source, but there is a fuel you can use. It has to do with belief systems and also active measures you take. There's a fuel you can use to fuel your abundance and success and generally become happier. We're not saying you'll be happy 24/7, but you know what's funny, Teresa? So guys, put your guess in the chat. Jay Lee put gratitude. Now, we also gave a hint here. When you do inner child work, you are giving yourself this fuel. That's the hint. You are giving yourself this fuel because we talked about inner child work. Mr. L brought it up, or Miss L, Ms. I'm not sure. You are giving yourself this fuel when you do inner child work. And so put your guess in the chat and we'll reveal it. If no one guesses, that's okay too. Got 4 watchers. But yeah, so I forgot what we were talking about, Teresa. I don't know.
Well, we were talking about the ebook. We were talking about subconscious programming and how the core of your technology, right, is the reprogramming of the subconscious and releasing blocks that keep people from having the life that they want. And the outer world is a reflection of the inner world. If you're looking at your outer world and saying, this sucks, it starts with you. Sorry.
Yeah, space out, Chris got it. You got it. This is what we put in your subconscious, in your core beliefs, self-love. Within 2 years of me doing this on myself, my income doubled, and then it doubled again. And I wasn't trying to double it. It just kind of doubled. And then, you know, sorry to interrupt Teresa, but, you know, space out, Chris called it. So go ahead, Teresa.
Self-love. It's self-love. And I think the objective is unconditional love, although I don't know that we ever get to that point. But, you know,
we can get close.
We can get close. It's a journey, and it's, you know, layer upon layer upon layer, and just healing each layer and reprogramming so that we can live our best life possible.
Yeah. And I would say self-love, it requires a certain amount of knowledge and skill to implement correctly, as well as the willingness to do it. But I started doing a ton of inner child work, and also, you know, tons of toxic shame. I'm not good enough. Like, I used to hate myself. I literally used to hate myself in my 20s, and struggled massively because of that. And so about 10.5 years ago, you know, I found this methodology. Melanie Tonia Evans went in and fixed subconscious toxic shame. I'm not good enough. I'm bad. I'm sinful. I'm evil. Self-resentment, self-hate, all of that. Replaced it with unconditional self-approval I approve of and accept every single part of me, including the parts that are not optimal. Doesn't mean you're not going to want to fix the parts that are not optimal, but you accept and love every part of you, saying, I am enough just as I am. I have massive value just as I am. I'm here to learn and grow. And when you're fixing the broken parts, you're really just part of your progress of learning and growing, and coming into your power. And yeah, within 2 years, income doubled, and then it doubled again. I'm living my best life. And honestly, I went from girls like just, I go on a date and rarely had second dates, getting ghosted, flaked on, dumped, all of that constantly, to my success has gone way up, just way up. I'm not saying I don't get ghosted or flaked now, but that is way less. The quality of women, not just like attractiveness, but like the quality of women, like very caring women. Like I have women now. Thanks for the talk. Oh, Ali. So Ali, he's a guy, good friend of mine, and he was in Mexico City with me not too long ago. We were eating tacos. So I have women now. They come into my apartment. They clean my dishes. I don't even ask them to. I'm like, what? So it's like,
wait, that never happened to you when you were living in Dallas? Are you saying that didn't happen?
I had one woman cook me dinner once, and honestly, I had some pretty well-behaved women in the United States here. I do think it's
well-behaved women here. I'm going to tease you. I'm going to poke you here, Ryan, a little bit. Well-behaved women.
I mean, women who treat me well. Okay. And here's what I'll say, guys. If the women in your life treat you like crap, there is something within you need to up-level and heal.
Exactly.
Why are you tolerating that? If a woman does that with me, I've had women here in Mexico do that with me. That was the last date.
Well, if I may add, okay, it actually works both ways. If the women are treating you like crap, it's because they're feeling like crap themselves. Yeah. And they're thinking that you're going to tolerate that crap. So it's a dance. You attract people who feel crappy.
Yeah, and if you feel good, I remember there's this show called Fresh and Fit. I don't know if you've heard of it, Teresa.
What's it called?
Fresh and Fit. It has over 1 million subscribers. I kind of sort of know the guy. We've met in person, Myron Gaines, and they bring these women in Miami from the clubs generally onto their show, and these women are just toxic as hell. And he actually talks about, he's like, if you want a girlfriend or a wife, get an average or slightly above average looking girl. All the 9s and 10s are absolutely terrible. They're high maintenance, all that. I swear, that's actually not true, because I'm dating a girl who's like absolutely freaking stunning right now. And she's like sweet. She'll like clean off my countertops and stuff, and super well behaved, not entitled at all. And she actually told me, I found this attractive you, and she names these different things I do that attracted her to me, and it's all inner world stuff, And yeah, I mean, yeah, I have a high income and stuff like that too. I have way more confidence than I'm sure she finds, I work out, I'm sure she finds all of that attractive too. But if you get a good inner world, you can actually get a girl who has a good inner world, and it's awesome. And hey, if I didn't have a good inner world, I wouldn't be friends with you. You'd be like, who is this bum? You get rid of me, Teresa. So.
Well, and a couple of things. I will suggest to you, if I may suggest, the well-behaved, I would shift that language
to treating me with respect and decency.
With respect, right? Because well-behaved is not the best use of language in that.
Yeah, I agree, because it's hard to. Sometimes you got to. Sometimes you got to assert yourself, and even be a bit of a dick on occasion.
Well,
in a tactical, diplomatic way.
And the reason why I believe we connected so long ago was you were providing a service that was very, very important for my clients, and you were a man of your word. So even though you hadn't done this work back then when we met, you were very technically proficient, and you were a man of your word. You were honorable. right?
Yeah.
You were still struggling with all the stuff you were struggling with,
You
but
saw that, huh? You're like,
you
oh,
made
this.
the choice way back then to choose yourself and to keep fighting.
Yeah.
And
I did keep fighting until I
that
found the
shouldn't be
solution.
lost on anyone who is looking to level up and looking to heal. The fact that you're considering that means that you've got hope and that you've got desire and you're choosing yourself. And I like the word hope. I also relate to the word faith. I think there's more meat and there's more depth in the word faith than hope. Hope is like hopium sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But Ryan, a part of you had faith that you could level up and that you could heal. Otherwise, you would not have invested in yourself.
Yeah, I had many moments of despair, but I also had moments where it's like, okay, I'm going to keep pushing forward. And I did until I found the solution. And then when I found it, it was amazingly more powerful than I thought it could be. So, Teresa, so the thing here, self-love is the fuel. And when we talk about inner child work, it's important to actively do self-love with good self-talk, taking time off when you're burnt out and realizing, hey, what I want matters too. I just can't be a slave all the time or whatever. I was telling you about that earlier. I've worked very hard to put in all this infrastructure as I'm launching Inner Masculine full-time for the first time, have my other job last year. But I'm like, yeah, I'm going to start taking breaks. I'm going to start taking a day off where I just screw around because I worked 7 days a week for the last month, Anyways, so first off, I think we both agree you need to give yourself self-love as putting that subconscious core belief in you. That's what inner child work does, as well as clearing any I'm not good enough, I'm bad, sinful, evil, self-resentment, anger. Get rid of all that crap. Put the good self-love in your subconscious. Do it consciously as well. But you do this for yourself. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I know I'm not. You do this for yourself. I do it for me. When you give yourself unconditional love, approval, validation, I'm good enough for who I am, good job, I did this well, etc. Putting yourself first, taking time for yourself. Rollo Tomasi says, make yourself your own mental point of origin. That is a type of self-love. Putting yourself first so your needs are met and taken care of, so then you can help others. But when you do that, how does that lead to abundance and success? Why is that fuel for that? What have you noticed in your own life? Can you give any examples or maybe just say how that's helped you personally?
Well, I'll answer your question and then I want to backtrack for 1 second.
Okay, sure.
Because I choose me, other people choose me.
Mm-hmm. And why is that?
Well, because there's a confidence, there's a capability, that there's an energy. I think people buy energy. People are attracted to energy. In my business, in the business that I do, everything is energetic. But in my business, from an abundance perspective and from a business success perspective, energetically, people relate to me and say, she has her act together.
Yeah, they feel your vibe.
They feel the vibe, right?
Your authentic confidence.
From a friendship perspective, from a dating perspective, people buy energy. And when I want to backtrack for a moment, yes, self-love is the fuel for all of this. But someone who has not healed, they hear the word self-love. I will say my experience.
Okay.
When I was on the healing journey, self-love to me seemed so out there. I could not relate to the concept of self-love because I was in so much pain and I had so much to work through. If you had said you just need to love yourself, which is what people say from the beginning of time, right? That's all out there. Just love yourself.
I thought that means I need to work harder and do better. That's what I thought it meant. I have all these goals and I need to reach every single one of them, and I'm not working hard enough. I need to work harder. That's what
an interpretation. And that's not self-love, right? And so
I thought, well, it is because it helps me be more successful and all this other stuff, but no, it isn't.
Well, it depends what the motivation is behind that work. My motivation for all my degrees and all my certifications and all the hard work that I was doing was I wasn't good enough. I kept having to prove myself over and over again with everything that I was doing. Not good enough. That wasn't
I need to do
self-love.
this to be good enough because I'm not good enough now. But that is a subconscious tape. Like Bruce Lipton says, it's a subconscious tape that plays over and over. And guess what? You get the accomplishments and the tape's still in the tape player saying you're not good enough. And there are so many ridiculous amounts of examples of that. Marilyn Monroe, Robin Williams, Kurt Cobain, Chris Farley, this hilarious guy on SNL, and he had all these movies. He was going to be the lead for Shrek, except he died of a drug overdose, and then Mike Myers got the role. Otherwise, Chris, he was Kung Fu Panda. I mean, amazing, just, oh my goodness, such a funny guy. But he felt terrible about himself, so he's just a drug addict 24/7 until he died. And it's sad, because you get the success, but if you have all this I'm not good enough in your core, you're still going to feel like crap. You're going to be a Kurt Cobain who gets all this. Kurt Cobain, lead singer of Nirvana, sold out stadiums, all the hot girls he wanted, all the friends, all the adoration, everything. And he writes a song, I hate myself, I want to die. And then he kills himself. Crazy. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, because it's an inside game, right? It didn't matter how many millions of people loved and adored his music and bought his music. He wasn't feeling it on the inside. And
outside stuff will not change your subconscious core belief system.
It doesn't.
You got
all the degrees, all the certifications, however hard I worked, it did not fill that hole in my soul, in myself, that said, I am not good enough. I need more. Yeah.
And we know what we're talking about because we both been on the side where we felt like crap, felt not good enough, figured out how to healed it, and
still healing. We're still healing.
Still up leveling. Absolutely.
Right. We're still healing.
Yeah.
But at least we're healing from another place than healing from where we were, right? And Spaced Out Chris says, for me, self-love was smoking weed. That's a way of numbing. That is something that a lot of people do, is they numb with substances. Weed.
There's a chapter on my ebook about that.
Yeah. Drugs.
Use pleasure to cover pain. That's in my ebook.
Yeah. Where I live in Texas, in a county close by, there have been multiple kids dying of fentanyl.
Yeah.
They're taking it in their pills. And they've done, apparently the school system keeps putting the word out saying, do not take these pills. Look at the examples of your classmates dying, right? There have been 6 deaths, I think, in the last 3 months.
Damn.
And the kids are still taking the pills. Why is that?
Because they're in pain.
They are in pain. And the numbing, the opportunity to numb that pain is greater than their senses saying, oh my gosh, I could die if I take this. And add the element that kids do feel like they are invincible. It's not going to happen to me. I'm going to live forever.
Yeah, until it does. Yeah.
Well, it does, right? There's a very famous social media influencer and author whose name escapes me at the moment. He was in his 40s. He just died. And it just came out that he died from a drug overdose. I don't know if it was fentanyl, can't remember, but people were shocked because he looked like he had it all together. Why was he doing drugs at that level that he OD'd? And perhaps it was fentanyl poisoning. There was still something within him that needed to be numbed. He was in pain.
Yep. And my ebook goes over this in detail. It actually goes over the 3 motivational archetypes. If you have toxic shame, most people are going to avoid taking risks, avoid being rejected, playing it safe, staying small. But there is a certain subset of people who say, I feel terrible now because I feel not good enough. But if I become super successful or famous or rich or whatever, then I'll be good enough. And so they try super hard, and a lot of them get a lot of success and they still feel terrible. And so that's why you see these rock stars or these Hollywood elite who are like cokeheads, just because they're numbing out the pain. All that success didn't get them that. I think getting success is great, but man, I would rather be earning 40,000 a year happy than earning 40 million a year miserable any day of the week, man.
Being at peace, having a center of control, having a spiritual relationship where you know what, I can handle anything at all that comes my way because I've got this foundation, spiritually, emotionally, psychologically. It's huge.
Yeah. And once you have that, let's say you have that and you are making 40 grand a year. If you want to make more, you now have fuel to do it. You can absolutely do it.
Right.
And that's why, Teresa, you have success, overall happy. I have success, overall happy, but the inner world, let me tell you, back when 10 and a half years ago, I was making about, 70, 75,000 a year. So 10 and a half years ago, is a decent income, work for myself, etc. But not doing more now, but I was totally happy and content being at that level. I mean, you become grateful for every little thing you have at times, and I would prefer that to, I mean, I literally know people who tell me I've made 700 grand in the last 4.5 months and I feel like crap. I've literally had people tell me that. And it's like, dang, that's awesome. You made that much, but that's terrible. You feel that way, So,
well, money only magnifies someone's inner world, right?
Yeah.
When
100%.
When we meet jerks out there that, apparently have it all together in terms of money and success, but they're really, really jerks, that gives you an indication of their inner world, right?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. So I was going to bring up this point. Self-love goes hand in hand with self-belief. If you have huge self-belief, you're going to get what you want, whatever that is. So it's just a matter of time. You have no barriers. The more we do, the great thing about us humans is the more we do anything, the better we get. What keeps people from getting massive success is they stop short because they don't believe in themselves and they don't believe they deserve it. They don't believe they're worthy of it. They don't love themselves enough to say, hey, I do deserve to get what I want, So that's kind of all I had. Is there anything you would like to add or?
No, I think this is a great conversation. And if someone wants to summarize exactly what we focused on today, it's your ebook. It's got some great information. It's about subconscious programming and reprogramming your subconscious so you can come to a place of self-love, and that self-love will fuel your outside world and whatever it is that you want to accomplish.
And what we're doing is to actually get that in people.
Yeah.
Hey guys, you want some of this? Get the ebook. You can book a session with me. There's actually a way at the end of the ebook you can find out how to get a free 30-minute consult with me. So put in your email, get the ebook at the end. There's a link there. You can get a free 30-minute consult with me, and I'll help you. I'll help you however I can for 30 minutes. And but Teresa, you're heading in this direction. We're setting up stuff with you to be able to help people at a deep core level, at the Bruce Lipton level, the inner child, the subconscious, all of that. Love yourself. Do it actively, do it consciously and subconsciously. I'm doing that, and it makes all the difference. So the how is there's various techniques. The best one I like is hypnosis, which puts you in a state where we can reprogram your subconscious. That's all it is. There's some hypnotists that suck. There's some that are great. Hypnotism is like the canvas. It just puts you in a state where we can then use techniques, and we use specialized techniques to get this self-belief in you. You do it with self-hypnosis, that as well. Self-talk, also important. I coach people on all of this. It's what we do. If you read the disclaimer, it says, I'm a self-belief, I'm a I think something like a life and self-belief coach, and all I do is teach you how to unconditionally love yourself, believe in your ability and value, and let go of that which doesn't serve you. It's all I do. So this is really at the core of what Brent Caldwell, welcome to the show as we're wrapping it up. The how do you get this in you so you can up level, be way happier, way more successful, getting what you want, getting better friends, better love life, everything. It affects everything. The how is intermasculine.com, free ebook. That'll get you on the path. Anything to add about the how, like how to actually get not just consciously self-love yourself. How do you get this in your course? You can get all, number one, be way happier right now as you are, but then it leads you to get what you want and get success and abundance. Any more on the how you'd like to comment on, Teresa?
No, just get the ebook, and that's a great start.
All right. Thank you. That's our show for today. Thanks for dropping in, Brent. Everyone else, P-Dub, Spaced Out Chris, Ali, yep. Tacos and Mexican women are great in Mexico. I'm just reading through the comments. L, glad we can help. P-Dubs, thanks for always coming on. Everyone else, that's our show. You can fix your core. You can get this in you. And once you get unconditional self-love and a belief in your ability and value, once you get in you, you're going to discover a great secret of the universe, of the human soul. And that secret is you have more power than you know. That's our show. Thank you.